pain. Dreams of stars, now a faint refrain. Coffee brews and thoughts collide in this early morning ride. Wake up world, let's start the day. Insight flows in a bright array. Questions dance like morning dew. In this space, it's me and you. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup was a whisper. Conversations open doors. Spilling thoughts forevermore. Ideas bubble crisp and bright. Words take flight in morning light. Consult the heart, make it sing. New perspectives on each wing.
Good morning, guys. It has been a minute. How have you been? How are you doing? Thanks for coming today. I am Melissa Houston, cultivator of dreams, motivator of human capital, and this is Coffee Chats with Melissa. This show started a few years back after a little bit of a hiatus. I left LinkedIn to deal with the passing of my mother and a longstanding client. And when I came back, I realized, wow, I have a few thousand friends I need to catch up with. And so I did a live event. And back then it was audio, and it was just me and a bunch of friends in something that reminded me of a podcast, you know, one of those where you just get a group chat together, but everybody could engage. You could throw emojis up. It was a great little personal space that became a safe haven for so many. We've covered tons of topics, from loss of loved ones to job changes, layoffs, divorce, other relationship issues, hard-hitting emotions, sales, marketing, why to be on this platform or any platform at all. And so, guys, if you have a topic you want me to cover, please let me know. I'm always open for that. I used to have a ton of guests on my show weekly. I would highlight them, their business, let you get to know them. I'm going to bring that back at some point. But for now, what we've been doing is covering a topic together. I do it weekly on Saturdays unless I go back on hiatus. And that's kind of what I've done. And so if you're here today, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming back. Just to give you a quick update, my dad is doing okay. He has finished his rounds of chemo for now. We're waiting for additional testing to come back, but he says he's doing better and they're managing the pain for him. And so just thank you for the prayers and good vibes that you guys have sent during that time, because it's hard when a parent gets sick, and we got a diagnosis right around Easter. And so since then, it's just been a lot going on for me. Now, if we are just getting to know each other, this is going to be a theme you learn about Melissa. Is I tell people often to slow down, to speed up. When life gets going too fast, if you feel like you're juggling too many things, you don't have to keep performing. You can put the plates down. You can take a deep breath, get some water, take a nap, come back and pick up those plates at any time. I promise you, you're allowed to juggle the rest of your life. At any given moment, the world will let you jump into that chaos, but we don't always get time to take a break. And so thank you for respecting my time away. Thank you for allowing me the grace to leave and come back at will, and still have your support, because it matters. And I appreciate you guys. So if we're just getting to know each other, go over to documentthenact.com. You can read some reviews, testimonials, learn about what I offer. Go to YouTube. Sometimes the platforms that I'm streaming to get a little wonky, and YouTube seems to be the GOAT. You can tell them I said so. It's not sponsored by any means, but just make sure you have more than one way to stream today. Now, getting back in, thank you guys for being here. Let's talk about today's topic. More than meets the eye, how to identify potential and unlock opportunity. And I have to tell you guys, if I had to give a star to myself, a gold star on my chart for something that I am good at, I would say it's that. I have been in sales my entire career. I started doing door-to-door sales of newspapers. And I got to tell you, if you've never been in a sales career, that is the hardest thing ever. You're coming to somebody's house unannounced. You're knocking on the door. You're asking them for permission to share your dream, your concept, your idea, your reason for giving you money. And I don't know how you guys feel about people who just knock on your door unintentional or unannounced, right? How would you feel if somebody came right now and knocked on that door? Hello, Avon calling. That was my first job. So I would go around at 13 years old and ask people to buy a newspaper. The ability to accept the no and move forward was a gift I had, right? And it was something that I have to say, I would quietly watch. I would quietly watch the other self first. And this is something that I often do. And so when we get back to the topic, I want you to understand, first, you got to identify it in yourself before you can in others. I really believe that. It's easy to assess other people, but to really genuinely do the work for you, you got to turn it around. Look in the mirror. For me, I like to be quiet until I know what I'm talking about. Once I know what I'm talking about, I don't shut up. I'm going to go for 2 hours straight today, guys. I don't shut up once I know. But that quiet assessment, that quiet, let me take in what's happening around me before I decide to add to the flavor of the room, right? It's almost like a soup. Can I taste it before I add salt or sugar or whatever it is? You never know until you assess. And so when I look at talent, I don't always look for the loud one. I don't always look for the Melissa Houston, not the one who's out there on the forefront leading the chat. And the reason I don't always is because I like to cultivate new talent. I'm fine. I'm doing okay for myself. So it's great Melissa has ideas, but Melissa often, and I'm talking about myself in the third person, will be quiet to give space to others when it matters, right? For example, at some point, I'm going to open up the stage for you guys. You're going to be able to speak and I'll shut up. It'll be great. But what about those people in the room? Can you think of times in your career where you're looking around the meeting room? Just go there visually with me. Close your eyes, flash back. Who was the quiet one who was like the hidden talent in the room? The one who would take really good notes, not really say much in the meeting, but then somehow just execute on the back end. The quiet ones are assessing. The quiet ones are learning. The quiet ones may be lost too. But if they're prepared, if they have good notes, if they're quiet and they show the documentation or the outcomes, that's something to tap into, guys, because they don't need to be the star. Usually those are the supportive people. I see that often when you see a really fantastic CEO, CFO, any of those people who are the forefront, they are the voice, they are the ones running around. They need the quiet one to keep the calendar straight. They need the quiet one to keep them straight. Sometimes they need them to shove them in the car to make sure they get there okay. But they're always prepared for that moment. And so look for those people. They're not always loud. And tell me in the comments, are you quietly prepared or are you prepared and loud? It's not a wrong answer. There is no wrong answer. There's got to be room on the team for everybody. But really understanding who you are and how to tap into the potential and how to present that potential, even if you're quiet, matters. And so we can talk about that if you guys want to. But I definitely want to assess for your businesses, for your friends group, who is the quiet one who's always steady, ready to go. On the opposite end, what about an employee who struggles with confidence but not effort? What if you see them always being the first one to volunteer, always putting their hand up to help? Maybe they're like, yeah, I'll go call that new client. But then they struggle. They get them on the phone and they don't know how to tell Bob about the product. Maybe they don't know how to complete it all, and so they're stumbling along the way. What do you do? As a leader, what do you do? And I'm gonna come to the comments just for a second because I love this. Michelle says trick or treat for UNICEF. Lauren says I don't like it, and I'm guessing being the loud one. Yeah, give me a little more. Oh, knocking on the door. She probably hates people knocking on the door. Did you say add sugar or salt to your soup? Do you add sugar or salt to your soup often? I do not add sugar often, but I have added sugar, especially when I'm adding it to like a sausage soup. I like a good zuppa toscana, and I add a little bit of sugar to my meat to get a nice brown on it so it doesn't dissipate in the soup. But the truth is, how do you know how to adjust your flavor profile if you jump in before you taste it, right? And so that slow down to speed up, it can happen. Also, if you add too much salt, sugar is a nice way to offset that. So be careful, right? And then Michelle says depends on the soup, and that's true. So that is me a majority of the time. Gregory, what does that mean? Are you loud or are you quiet? Are you the silent but prepared? Felipe says he's prepared and quiet, but prepared to be loud. And I think it's good to have all of those gears, right? But how can you confidently shift into loud from quiet if you're not prepared? And what are you prepared to say once you get loud? Once you get the attention in the room, who are you speaking to? Why are you speaking to? What is the outcome? How does this affect you versus the business? Why should it matter? All of those who, what, where, when, whys, right? Big fan of those questions before we engage our actions. And if you know, that's even better, guys. That's that untapped potential, more than meets the eye. I'm always ready to go. I'm 5'2". 5'2", 5'4". I don't even know, to be honest with you. I lied when I was 16 and I've never remeasured, but I think I'm maybe 5'4". I don't know. I'll find out for you guys. However, the sweet face, the small stature, the ability to help and want to help and to get really Snow White-esque when the birds get close or the butterflies fly by. I even stop and watch seagulls who could absolutely leave a mess in my car flying overhead, but they're fantastic to watch. And so all of that creates Melissa Houston. I like glitter. I like bubbles. I like fun. I like to color. I like to play, but don't make me mad. Don't get in my bubble and hurt my people, because there is something unexpected that happens and I become a lion. I'm a lioness and I defend the pack. And I think there's something to be said about knowing how you activate that side of you, knowing how to maintain it so it's on a leash and not too vicious, but absolutely able to keep people at bay at your boundaries. Sometimes that's the confidence employees are lacking. Can they say no to you about more work? Can they say, no, I don't understand how to do that process. Can you please show me before you hand it off to me? One more time, can we review? Those things matter, especially when you see somebody willing. You don't want to come after them and say, hey, you're not doing a good enough job. You're not doing this. You can say, hey, I love your output. Let's work on the things you need to refine. And it's way better than you did that wrong. Because you can't get fun and passion in people without it naturally occurring. And if you beat it out of them, if you flatten it, if you take it away, you're in a lot of trouble, right? And so work on the confidence, but don't kill the effort. Do it in a way that would want them to re-engage that behavior, the good stuff, with new skills. not take away from what you're already receiving from them. And it's not a perfect thing, right? Leadership can get busy. We get, short staffed, things can happen, but really assess how you're moving. Because if you want to find untapped potential, the first place you got to do it is you. What is your potential to coach these people to a new height? Are you somebody who just likes to cut the team and then work from there to replace? Have you ever run numbers on what it costs to recruit, train, and retain? These are things you guys really have to consider, especially if you're in a leadership role. I promise there's not a lot of humans that I have encountered in my life who don't want to do a good job. Very few people came in going, I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to do it. I don't care. I've never seen that successfully maintain its presence in one of my facilities that I've been in charge of. Because if the effort's not there, but the confidence is, we're in a lot of trouble, because that's a dangerous combo. But I would absolutely invest in the employee who struggles with the confidence, but not the effort. Let's go on to the next slide here. I said slide. Haha. Okay, so when a community event starts small, but people keep showing up. Guys, this one's hard, especially on this platform, especially out on social. Can we just talk about how you feel when you get an event together, you do the work, you put it up, and they don't show? Maybe you I just started this network group at Sliced. If you guys don't know what it is, I've been freelancing with a local restaurant to help them with their marketing and their event planning. I love their food. I reached out to them specifically and said, I love your food. It has to stay in town. You're not allowed to leave, but nobody knows about you, and I can tell. So how do we fix that? And we're doing networking events, and it's been a few months now. The first event only had a handful of people. Less than 10, maybe. I honestly, I'd have to look at the numbers. My brain's too busy. But when you think about it, I am a stranger who on the internet invited business leaders from my local community to come and talk to me. I offered to feed them. I offered a beverage. I offered conversation. And people showed up with confidence to do so. I don't know the last time you guys invited 10 business owners over to your house or your business and had them all show up without knowing who you were. But guys, that's a win, right? If you get one person to come to your first event, that's 100% more than last month. If you keep growing on that. When I first took over the motorcycle shop, for those of you who don't know me, I run a motorcycle shop in my daytime. I love that business. It is nothing but fun and passion. It's a customized, very niche industry that you get to fit a person in their style, their brand, their desire, their look. You're really playing dress up to some extent. No disrespect intended at all, but you get to give them the look they've been dreaming of their whole life when they thought motorcycle, while keeping them safe, while getting to know the community, while getting to have fun, while getting to dance and laugh and sing and go outside and hear it go vroom, vroom, vroom. And I get paid to do that. Right? What was cool about this was they do community events, the business I work for, once a month. 173 stores nationwide are throwing a party. Free food, free games, free prizes. First event that I hosted as the manager, very first month I worked there, we had 14 guests. At my last highest summer event, it was 125. That was huge for us. That was an 800% increase in events over time. Usually summer starts smaller, guys, right? You'll get 50 or so bikes. By the end of summer, we were at 125. This summer, we kicked off at 90 bikes to start. We did year-round events, but everybody thought, oh, nope, it doesn't really kick off in Washington to ride until May. And we still had 90 people at the beginning. I'm hoping for 300. I'm pushing for 300. We're marketing for 300. But it only happened because we kept doing the work. We didn't fret over the 14 people who showed up. We celebrated 14 people. We took 2 hours to engage 14 people. We took 2 hours to talk about bikes of 14 people and take pictures of those 14 bikes and post them to the internet. And we kept growing. The fact that when we host these events, it helps my bottom line. It's funny to think that a business would create business and it would help profits, but it really does, right? And so thinking about the ROI, thinking about the time invested, thinking about the reason we do what we do, I can tell you going from 14 bikes at an event to an average of 100 or so now and growing, it's a cool thing to talk about. But the coolest thing for me is how when they show up, they know me by first name. I know them by first name. Half of them have nicknames I gave them. Many of them say, "Hey, mom, I'm shop mom. I have hundreds of kids I didn't even mean to adopt. I am so grateful I don't have to pay for their very expensive habits." But to have that kind of community, the kind that builds on itself, the kind that grows, the kind that I see here on LinkedIn, everybody in the comments, guys, I met you here. I met you because of a coffee chat. I met you because of the event that maybe you hosted and I showed up to because you had come to my event, and so I found you. When it's well done, people invite others. How many people have you invited to one of my shows because you got something out of it? Or how many friends have you introduced me to because you thought they needed to know Melissa? And vice versa, right? A community event starts with community. What are you doing to build it? How do you build it within your organization? How do you get a team who has to work together 5 days a week to volunteer on a Saturday to go clean up the I don't know, highway, freeway for free? You build something together that you agree on, you align on, you're impassioned about, something that you can keep building from, right? And I see this in the comments, guys, like Aaron Gibson. Thank you so much for my opening song. He builds a community. He has a show. You catch him on Fridays. Lauren also has a show, right? She has built a community. I've watched her grow on this platform, and I am so freaking proud of her because her follower count is huge, and that community shows up. If she can't, her network can is her tagline, and I am so glad I will never leave her profile because that is the truth about her. Can you adapt for everyone? I'm going to address the question too. Or do you only have one style? You have to be a little bit of everything in sales, guys. You can be one style person, and that could be your niche. Richard Simmons, for example, comes to mind. I don't think Richard Simmons ever adapted his marketing, behavior, presentation style. You got 80s, you got energy, you got sparkly, you got big hair. And you know what? They loved him. Now, if you ever met Richard privately or watched him privately, he also could meet people in a quiet space, meet them where they were, have that conversation. And so I think you do need to adapt. You can't always be yelling with the microphone. You can't always, as a cheerleader, you can rah, 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 rah. But if I come to meet you and you're shaking your pom-poms in my face and don't stop the cheer, what was the point of the cheer? If we're not cheering to then engage with the humans when they come, so you got to think about it, guys. I love that question. Jason, welcome. Oh no, Felipe, LinkedIn froze up. That stinks. Yeah, Jason, I love this community event too, guys. I found out I have a love of catering. I grew up in a very big family. Community events just being part of my family. 7 aunts and uncles, a million cousins, and grandma would call on me, the eldest cousin in Arizona, to help with all of the food prep. And so I would be cooking Thanksgiving, breaking up 100 different loaves of bread, facetious, 10 loaves of bread, but by hand to make the stuffing, cutting up the celery, the onions, so whatever, major food prep. And I learned how to budget to feed all of them, right? And using that, instead of doing the standard hot dogs that most motorcycle shops were doing, I started doing enchiladas, rice and beans. I did pasta bakes with garlic bread on the grill, fresh, hot butter and garlic staying, just rotating on the grill. And that's the only reason I used the grill was to keep the pasta warm and to grill up the garlic bread. They loved it. I fed them and I found them. And you know what? In a community like motorcycle riders, there's not a lot of people who have people. It's something that they have told me. They have a community. They'll have their groups. They'll have their people. But a lot of them are solo at home. The reason they look for communities like a group is because they don't have somebody or they want more community. And it takes one person to go, yeah, I'll ride with you. And then they invite another friend and another friend. And all of a sudden you have people shutting down traffic in Tacoma, Washington, by the way, if you don't know where Tacoma is, for 15 minutes, they have bikes blocking traffic on the freeway to make sure all of the riders get on together because there were hundreds. This is something that you can build, but it takes time. It's not overnight. And if you get upset that one person showed up to your event when none came before or it never existed before, it's going to affect your outcomes. They're not going to want to come back if all you tell them is, I'm mad more people didn't show up, because you're devaluing the human who did, right? And the same can be true about the community that shows up to work. Maybe you have a core group of individuals who are rock hard and solid. They are your go-to at all times. They always show up on time, but you have a few others who don't. If you attack the team, or if you berate the team, or if you take away from the team because of a few, it really hurts long-term, right? So think about your actions, sleep on it, guys. Managers should be sleeping on it before you decide. But then also, and I want to ask this for anybody who's hired, fired, or been in front of a team. Have you assessed the good and the bad for your team? How long do you wait to celebrate the win? How long do you wait to address the negative? Because there is a rule of thumb for this. There is something that says managers should wait a bit for negative, and we should quickly jump into the positive. But I want to know what you guys think, okay? Sales 101 is, if you don't perform, you're out. I hate to say it that way, but as somebody who was a telemarketer and somebody who did door-to-door sales, if you weren't performing, what was the purpose of us picking you up as an employee and holding on to you if you're not driving results? But what do results look like for your business? And do you even know? Because this is something that I've coached and consulted businesses on for quite some time. And even now in my day job, I use the same mindset to coach my team. When somebody starts, they're going to suck. No offense to them. I know that's a little brash, but they are. They're not going to be good at it. They have no idea what they're doing. They may know how to sell, but they don't know your product. They may know your product, but they don't know your tech stack. They may know your tech stack, but they don't know how to use the outside line yet. They may not have credentials to get into their emails, or, insert here. You guys know. You can tell me right now what you've dealt with if you know the numbers are average. But what does that average number time frame look like in your business? How long do they get to settle in, learn the things, start figuring it out? And how do you measure success when there are no sales yet? You have to watch the behaviors. And guys, this is something that is not instant. You can have a conversation with an employee about their outcomes. You can have a conversation about their output. You can have a conversation about a lot. But if you don't also figure out why they're struggling to begin with, you're going to be in trouble. And so if you can monitor the actions, maybe they weren't making enough phone calls a day to get the outcomes they needed. So then you see them doubling the number of attempts. That's an improvement of behavior. It hasn't created outcomes yet, but at least we're doubling our effort. Doubled effort is huge, right? What if you doubled your effort and your boss didn't give you credit for that? Could you imagine? What if you doubled the amount of field you planted this season, but nobody thinks you're valuable because it's not harvest time yet? How do you know how long to wait for the numbers to improve? Do you have a guideline? Do you know what to look for? And if you can't read the data, if you can't answer this question, you shouldn't be setting a deadline. And I mean that, because you're holding on to the future of people's lives, their careers, their whatever. I don't care who you are to them. Maybe you're their best friend. If you're nitpicking them for not dieting quick enough, not saving quick enough, not moving quick enough on whatever thing you think they should be or whatever they told you they should be, right? Are you really giving them a valuable assessment, or are you being judgmental? Because you have to look at the outcomes. A train is going to spin its wheels at the station long before it starts to chuck out. It's not even going to get to full potential for a while, right? A mile, maybe two, I don't know. I don't train. But I always use that as an example because we all know it does take a minute to get all of that steel running. That heavy, big thing gets moving. Get out of its way. It takes a long time to stop it too. So I think measure on both sides. It may be hard to get going, but what happens when we do get them going? Will they be able to stop them if they're so good at the consistent practices that are going to get them to success? And if they're not, what responsibility do you have? What part is your responsibility? Maybe you're the sales guy. What are your behaviors that you're changing? And how can you identify them if your boss comes to ask? If Felipe is my boss and he comes in and says, hey, Houston, listen, you were supposed to hit quota this month. You're 25% behind quota. We're not really sure what's going on. How do you plan to fix this? How can I help? I need to be able to say, listen, I know what's happening. I know my sales are down. However, I have taken time off. This is the thing, my family, cancer, whatever. Not excuses. These are explanations of where my efforts, focus, and time have been instead. It's been displaced for something more important to me at the time. Now, does that mean I wasn't putting in effort at work? No. And if I say, hey, it wasn't as important as my dad's chemo, that's going to probably not sit well with my boss, right? But if I say, hey, listen, I understand I've been giving 100% effort. I really have. My mind maybe hasn't been as sharp as it usually is, but I know where I've been lacking. I have some rest time planned. I'm going to come back rejuvenated so I'm not as scatterbrained, because I feel like it's just been really hard to focus lately with everything that's been going on. But thank you so much for bringing it to me. I agree. I know I see it too. Right? Maybe Felipe comes and says, Melissa, you've been doing 50 calls a day, and this week, all of a sudden, you're at 0. You're fired. What happens if I tell Felipe, well, you guys disconnected my phone line? Something happened at the phone company, and we accidentally shut off my phone line, and I'm waiting for the service call. I got fired because the service guy didn't come. So make sure that you're looking at performance, you're looking at the behaviors, you're looking at the reasons, and you're being a human. Right? Because if you're asking people to push beyond what they can, if you have a top performer that's not top performing anymore and they're struggling and you know them and they've done a great job for you, and all of a sudden now they're not, and you're just going to punish them for already struggling without knowing why, I think you're going to be in trouble. And so just watch that, right? There's so much opportunity to build community, to re-engage that relationship, to refocus that human on something they can control if you're willing to listen. Because truthfully, that is something that I had to say to myself when coming back is, yes, you have a lot going on. Yes, even my day job during the holidays, like the one that just passed, they will rearrange my schedule. I don't get a choice. It's mandatory. Managers have to do it. It is the one downside of my job, is that I suddenly lose control of my schedule. And they don't always give us the greatest warning. And no offense to my management, but we really didn't have a lot of warning this time. It was based on, if you were here last year, you should have remembered. I didn't. I'll be honest. So I had to take time to reset my schedule, reassess my life, kind of fit in everything else I've already done. And as a coach, I utilize my time off for coaching. And so when I have to reschedule my life, I have to reschedule everything. And it does change things. I don't do outbound marketing when I'm overwhelmed with my day job. I put my plates down. I don't add more plates. I don't start throwing the marketing plates around, because it creates inbound leads. And that's a great thing unless you don't want the work, right? Same thing with your team. If you're in sales, if you're in product management of any kind, you have something you deliver to a customer for pay, watch your team's bandwidth. Because the numbers being average could be because they're overloaded and doing the work of more than one. As businesses grow, they don't always assess that. The team will just rise up and keep pushing and keep adding and keep doing. They're willing to go a little bit beyond what their standard everyday was yesterday because we're doing more now. But at some point, I will walk into businesses, consult. They're like, hey, we're not sure what's going on, but our team's just not happy anymore. We need to get them refocused. We need to figure out what we need to fix because we're just not seeing the energy we used to. And it always came down to, well, I'm doing the work of 2 people. When Sally left, they didn't hire somebody. They just asked me to cover for her, and they never refilled the role because we were just taking care of it so well. But it's taking away from this other thing I used to do, or now I can't do the annual report that I used to do and get this done because they're too hard to do at the same time, right? And so you really have to be assessing all the time. You really have to look at your calendar the same way. If you're not making it on time to your events, if you're always feeling like you're crushing, yourself trying to live up to what you've put in your calendar, I want you to stop right now, go to your calendar, and I want you to take that first block of available space and I want you to lock it in. I want you to call it schedule for the yes. It's something I give to my clients often, where you make time to make time. If every day, and I want you to make it a repeating thing, every day on your calendar for all eternity, right? If you can do this for yourself, if you can schedule for the yes, you're always going to have time for the new client, the new project, to catch up on the things that have gone awry because you've taken 57 calls you don't normally take on a Tuesday, and now you got to do Tuesday things on top of it. That extra bit of time, that grace, that space you're going to give yourself to do these things, right? Because a lot of leadership might be listening going, yeah, okay, but when? Well, I don't know. You tell me. When is the next hole in your calendar that you can make this a priority? What reason do you need them to be successful? If you're upset they're not doing X, how much time are you giving yourself to support X being done? If I want my team member to serve a customer, sit with them, consult them, size them, fit them, demonstrate the products, do all of the 7 steps of selling that we have to make sure that our customers get what they need the right way the first time, then I need to protect that time for them to do so, right? Another great thing is when a team member asks why instead of just following directions. Right? Hey, we need to move X to Y. I don't want to just hear, okay, I would love for them to ask, what does that do for Z? Or what is the purpose of this? Why are we changing it again? Not because they don't want to do it. And this is a lot of leadership when they just have a question, a follow-up. You get frustrated. You're like, why are you asking? Can you just knock it out? But the truth is, guys, if you get frustrated at that question, you're never going to build a leader. The leadership behind you is going to struggle at all times, because if you want somebody to learn a task, do a task, be successful at the task without your help, you do need those people who need to understand the why. Sam is an assistant manager that I had trained. She started as a sales associate, very young professional. She came in, and every time I asked her to do something, she's like, okay, what does that do? What is this about? How does that affect this? And I'll be honest, it took me a second to breathe every time she did it, because my brain's doing 50 million other things, and it doesn't really always have space for other people to use my brain. And I do warn my team, hey, a little ADD over here, so I might have 57 conversations happening in my brain. If you add more, it might take a second for me to come back to you after I close off these over here. But when she would ask, she would say, hey, can I ask you a few questions? And so we set a standard for her to be able to ask the questions, me to be able to give her the time focus without a face of confusion of trying to catch back up with myself to come back to what she said. And what happened is when she learned what I wanted, why I wanted it, if she couldn't give A to me, she could come up with solution B. She's like, hey, we don't have I don't know, I'm going to give something super silly. Maybe you need 20s to break 100 in your cash drawer, in your register, and we run out of 20s. If she knows that all she has to do is make change for 100, she can move down to the 10s and adjust for that. Does that make sense, guys? Do you understand where I'm going? If somebody says, why do we need to put this here instead of there? And you can tell them, because we need 6 feet of space for this walkway entrance. The next time they go to set something up in that space, they're going to know to watch for 6 feet, and you won't have to adjust later. Instead of giving commands, you're teaching them to command the situation. When you see that natural talent start rising up, people being inquisitive, people asking good questions and retaining it, right? Not asking the same question over and over, because if they're not going to write it down, assess it, take it in, keep playing with the new knowledge until they have mastered it, then there's a problem, right? So who, what, where, when, why is always welcome. having the same conversation over and over? Maybe not. And so don't be afraid if they ask why. Be afraid if they keep asking why and never get to the how and outcomes, right? They need to get it done. That comes back to preparing them to be this person. When somebody sees the problem, they should bring an idea, not just a complaint. If I say, hey, we have a problem with getting people to attend bike nights. Nobody's really excited about the hot dogs. They're like, yeah, hot dogs are cool, whatever. Like, yeah, we'll eat a hot dog. If I go to Costco, I buy a hot dog. It's there. Why not? Sure. But how often do you guys absolutely go out of your way to cook a hot dog? Right? So when I was trying to figure out how do I get people in here, what is it that I would go out of my way to find, to eat, to do, whatever it is. And I thought, man, I always go for Mexican food. I will drive an extra mile or two if I get unlimited chips and salsa, or if I have some fantastic rice and beans, right? I assessed what could be one of my issues. I knew marketing was a problem. We weren't doing word of mouth. So when I come back and I say, hey, boss man, I really want to grow my thing. What do you think? And he goes, feed your people, give them a good time. This is what I know is successful. And I'm like, great. So I started to use my very tiny budget for food to cook from scratch, something I would go out of my way to eat. It became a thing where they would call the store, and still do, and we'll say, what's the menu tonight? Trying to decide if I'm going to ride out. What's the menu? I have created a space where they want to know what I'm cooking, and that brings them in. I had a problem. I brought the idea, not just complaining, nobody's showing up, and we have, no outcomes here. I knew what I could bring people to my house to eat, right? If I invited my friends over and said, hey, I'm making enchiladas, they were on their way before I even could finish the words. So I used that same skill set, guys. What if you had a unique answer to a problem? Who would have thought a community event would be solved with enchiladas? Truthfully. Or a chili. When I make my chili, guys, and I hate to talk about it so simply, but sometimes it's the smallest things. It's hard to find a really good chili in the Pacific Northwest. I said what I said. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I know it's hard to find it because I would have people call and go, I heard it's chili. Is it really chili? And I would say, yes. And they go, okay, I'm coming. What is the chili in your business? What is that small thing that's being missed because we're doing what we always do? We don't want anybody thinking outside the box. We don't want people asking why, because if they figure out why, then they're going to come over here with some new house, and I don't want that, because just do what I asked. If that is your mindset, get out of business. Sell the business now. Go home. Let the person second in charge run it. Step out of the way. And I know that sounds a little aggressive, right? I'm sorry if it's offensive. I don't know. Sometimes I get going. But the truth is, sometimes we're the problem. And so do you allow your employees to come and say, I see you being the problem, but here's how I think you could fix it. Like, hey, the team thinks you're mean. The team thinks you're angry. The team thinks you're grouchy today. What's going on? And I had a boss when I was running the staffing firm in Nebraska. That turned into a background screening company, was working for the same team. They would still come to my desk and go, hey, so-and-so's in a bad mood. And so I got nominated, being the one who would have no problem going with an idea, a complaint, an action plan for somebody, and I would address it. And I would say, hey, the team says you're in a bad mood. What's going on? I'm not in a bad mood. I was like, well, yeah, you are. I can tell by your face. What's going on? I just have a toothache. I have a dental appointment later. Okay. Great. So then I turned around to the whole team. I was not quiet about it. They were all sitting in the pit, is what we call it. It was, a bunch of desks put in a room together. And I said, hey, guys, he just has a toothache. He's fine. I'm going back to work now, kind of thing. And, that's the short version of it all. But the truth is I wasn't scared to ask why. I wasn't scared to help him find an answer. I was more worried about the fact that it took numerous people coming to me to say there's a problem. They weren't confident enough to do it. And so then I wanted to work on that, right? Because the truth is we shouldn't have one person who is the confident one who can do this. If that person leaves, when I left that business, there was a ripple. It took a minute. And I'm sure they recovered. I know, because they're still in existence. I'm very proud they're still in existence. I helped build that baby. But can your business sustain if your star leaves? If the one person who understands your methodology and your whys and your hows and the who's and the what's leaves, what are you doing? And are you teaching your team to see a problem, find a solution, and bring both to you to let you know about it? Because if you can do that, guys, you could do it with your kids, you can do it with your family, you guys, any relationship you have, if you can identify the problem, address it, write it down, and then assess how that changes things for you guys, you can really get the work started. But without it, if you're not willing, if it's not something that you can do all of the steps where, you can really fall short and you can hurt yourself, hurt your team, hurt your outcomes, really have a negative effect on your entire life. And I know because I've seen it. I'm a life coach. I have helped people bring those problems to fruition, to light, to really like blow it out. Either let's set it on fire or rebuild. And the truth is, sometimes you burn the bridge with your employer because they're just not the employer for you. Sometimes they're abusive in some way. Sometimes they're aggressive. Sometimes they're withholding funds or taking commissions when it was well-deserved, well-earned. I don't like that side of sales. I have seen people cut that were really good people. It was just a bad quarter. And I think there's value in watching for more than one quarter, more than one season, more than one thing, especially if you're having those conversations and really using emotional intelligence and employee development and keeping a mind on not just the investment from a financial standpoint, but this is a human in front of you. This is somebody you're going to be part of their story for the rest of their life. And when I look at my teams that I have led, the thing I want them to remember is they can tell me anything. I may laugh, I may cry, I may raise an eyebrow, but I want them to know that they can tell me. It's not judgment. I will assess the situation with them. I might giggle and go, well, that was silly. But I want them to feel comfortable knowing that I'm still in ear. I want them to know that I'll help them solution find, right? But I also want them to know that we are not negotiating on outcomes in my store. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to perfect at all times. Write that down. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to perfect at all times. And so if you have a complaint, if you have a problem, try to bring the solution for yourself. If you say, hey, I'm not feeling good, but you can't express to somebody what you need, how are they supposed to help? Unless that's their job, right? That's what a good coach can do. That's what a therapist can do. A doctor, if your body's not doing some things, friends, family, have a support system. Sometimes you need that inside your business too. Maybe the boss isn't always the person to have being the one to field that. And so who in your organization can your employees reach out to, or who can you reach out to if you need it and you're not the boss? Do you know, did your boss or your business create something for you to reach out, or some safe place? Because guys, remember when you were a kid and they said, find a trusted adult. If mom and dad aren't there, here's your trusted adults. We should still have that conversation as adults inside our organizations. Who's their trusted adult? Who's their trusted go-to when something's not right and they want to resolve it? If they don't know that, you're going to allow them to hide the problems, ignore the problems, not address the problems because they don't have a clear path to do so. And that is a problem. Are you guys still with me? I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here. Let me know. Are you getting anything out of this? What are you hearing from me today? How is this impacting you at all? When somebody has lived through hard things and still shows up with hope, I have to say this is one of my favorite skill sets to see harnessed. Sometimes it's naturally occurring. Sometimes you have to work really hard to get this to work for you. But it comes back to the quote that I have lived by since I was 16, wrote it down. I was very suicidal on the side of the road, guys. And I just didn't know what was going to come next. I just didn't. My childhood was different. On my profile, you can go read the featured post. It's still up there, kind of summarizes some of the bullet points. But the truth is, I was done. And I was just sitting on the busy side of the street, Mesa, Arizona, Main Street. I can smell it. And I wrote down, victory and victim both start out the same. It's up to you how it ends. And I still believe that is the premise in which all success lies, is where your mindset is. How you can take that moment and decide where it's going to put you next. Does that make sense, guys? When you have the mindset of victory and victim, both start out the same. You can look at it, VICT. And that's what I wrote first. I really just VICT, and I sat there because I was going to write victim. And I paused and I had to really think about what my final story was going to be, right? Because in that moment, I could have written a goodbye note. In that moment, I could have drawn a little doodle. In that moment, I could have put the pen and paper down and left nothing behind. But I paused and I assessed and I really thought about what I wanted to say to myself and to the world and what is that thing? And what I ended up doing is not being able to write victim first. Because if I was going to leave the world, I didn't want to leave as a victim. I still have that mindset. I don't want to do that. I'm going to face some of the hardest things ever in life. I'm going to see death. I'm going to have loss. I'm going to see illness happen. I have. I'm hoping I don't see much more of it in the future, but I will. Likely, right? Because I'm human and I'm growing older and my friends are growing older and we don't get better with age as much as they say we do, guys. At some point that goes the other direction. My hips are warning me already. But that victory and victim mindset, they both start out exactly the same. It really is up to us how it ends. And are we going to allow the situation to take us down and out and remove a piece of us? Or are we going to allow it to reinforce something that's inside of us, to reinforce our skill set, our mindset, our confidence, our ability to overcome, or at least remove the things that don't work for us, that make us feel like a victim in our life? It's a choice. And when you remove the things that make you feel like a victim, you are standing in victory automatically, in my opinion, right? Because you're changing your life. You're mastering what you want to control. And so how can your team, capture this inside the organization? How can you bring this into your next team huddle or group and ask them how to turn it from a victim mindset into victory? How do we take this loss and turn it into a win? What does that win look like? Do we even know? Right? Making sure you're asking the right questions is really important, not just to yourself, but to others. And then listening to how they respond. If you ask your team how you're doing and you start to get upset when the responses are coming out, it's going to hurt your outcomes in the future. They're not going to be as transparent. They're not going to be as willing to do the things if you're not as appreciative as they were hoping for, right? And I'm assuming, but it's based on previous experiences and paid consulting gigs to come in and fix the problems. And so what are you doing? How are you handling this? Do you even have the conversation, guys? This is another big conversation piece. How often do you meet with your team? Also, Michelle, I don't put dark chocolate in my chili. My husband does. And he made this fiery, great dark chocolate chili. It was so spicy, but he won a contest for his holiday party with it. It was so good. It's a vegetarian one. I love it. But mine is not. Mine is actually very simple, especially for large events. I don't do it from scratch. I cheat. I use El Pato, which is a Mexican hot sauce. It comes in a can with a little duck on it. And I do one small can of that to one large can of Nally's chili. And I like the vegetarian chili just because I'm in a space where there's a lot of vegetarians in my town. But the perfect combo, you just combine those two cans together, add a little bit of garlic powder, add some fresh onion. Right at the end is when I like to add it, but it actually pops really well and it goes great on some white rice. Okay. Anyway, that's a quick hack for you guys. I love that chili. It's one I do when I don't want to do it from scratch. And if I'm doing a big event, that's the easiest to throw together. So moving on, let me get back to where my slides were. that's where we left off, right? When somebody has lived through hard things and still shows up with hope. And that's very true in sales. It's very true in leadership. Sometimes you don't have the best day with your team. Sometimes we have a really bad day with our client. Sometimes the contracts just don't, get signed in time for us to hit quota. But the way that people show up in the next moment, the way the salespeople come in after month one with a mindset for month two, if they come in and they're like, man, I didn't hit goal, I'm never going to make money here, it's always going to suck, we're already losing this month. Because something I do also coach on is fun and passion. Those are the two things that sell anything. If you run your budget right now, those are the two things you spent money on this month beyond your required bills. If it wasn't your insurance, your mortgage, your utilities, your food, gas, the things we need to survive, it was fun or it was passion. You either wanted to fix something, overcome something, avoid something, and you were passionately trying not to do your dishes until you hired somebody, or you wanted to go out and have fun. You needed a break. You wanted to go out to eat. You wanted to go watch a movie. You wanted to play in some way with your family, your friends, or what have you. If you can still have that fire, that passion, that fun in your eye, even after a loss, come in and going, yeah, yesterday sucked, but today's going to be so good. It is a game-changing mindset. 100%. You bring that to my team, you're going to go far. Most of you know Sam, my assistant manager. I talk about her all the time because she was a young professional when I met her, and she hadn't had a lot of experience before she met me. I taught her what to look for. I taught her to think about the whys and not the hows, because she would ask the good questions, right? She is the one who started the questions. I would have got there, but she jumped first, and I want to give her credit for that. She didn't do the self-doubt. She shut off her imposter syndrome. She shut off her fear, and she just went in full throttle knowing, I know you need this gear. I know you need me to tell you about all of the value and savings I can offer you. I know you need to listen to me when I tell you this is going to do X for you. And I'm going to make sure you hear me because your life is literally in my hands. And she had the courage to say that. No, you need to listen. This is your life. That courage to say no to somebody you need a yes from is a game-changing experience in sales. How many people, though, can you set a boundary with to say no? Have the courage to say no and still be okay. Because if you're not doing that in your life, your personal life, if you're not doing it in your business, your career, if you can't tell your boss no when you're not feeling the yes coming up, you're going to be in trouble long term. If you can't tell people, hey, I would love to do that thing, but I have never even heard of that technology. Can you tell me what it does and what I'm supposed to do with it? I need to do what with that app? Take away the imposter syndrome. It only comes when you're pretending to be something you're not, right? Don't pretend. Tell them, I am not yet trained in that skill. Can you please show me so I can execute what you're asking? Have the courage to say, I'm not sure yet. Saying I don't know is fine when you say yet behind it, because that yet is such a powerful word. It's like, yeah, I'm not there, but I'm coming. I don't know, but I will. When somebody's willing to take that radical ownership and accountability and just be transparent, there's so much respect that comes behind that. And then if you can do that in a room where others maybe aren't able to do that, you might set a new standard. You might motivate other people to have that same ripple. That's kind of what Coffee Chats is about. If you're just joining us right now, guys, we're at the top of the hour. It is Coffee Chats with Melissa. We do this Saturdays on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. You can definitely go find out more about me at documentthatAct.com, and please follow me. If you're not following on YouTube, you can go ahead and scan that QR code and get right over there. I'm going to leave it up for just a minute. But guys, if you want to join the conversation today, you're welcome to message me. I will send you the link to join. I would love to talk to you about this. How do you spot potential? Do you know where the potential lies? and the opportunity to grow. Are you willing to seize the opportunities to say no when you mean no, to say yes when you mean yes, to say hell yes when you mean hell yes, to take that fun, energy, and passion and put it into growth? Put it into the business you're working for, with, own, whatever it is. Because the truth is, I only want to work with people who want to have that radical accountability of making this business the best thing it can be for our community. And that's something I drive, right? I think the reason it really has gone from 14 bikes at the first event to 90 at the last and 125 at our biggest is the radical accountability of the team telling people, you should be here. You are welcome. You are wanted. We care about you more than this sale. We want to feed you. We want to give you games. We want to give you prizes. Here's a calendar. When they say, hey, I work on Tuesdays, we remind them, you have months to plan a PTO day. You can tell your boss you're not available because you have something scheduled 3 months from now. Just explaining to them, we want them there so bad that their no doesn't have to stay a no. They can say yes. And having somebody feel that wanted, that we start offering a solution to their problem, right? Coming back to the slide where we're talking about, don't just offer the problem, but bring a solution. Okay, I hear you, but you said you want to ride with people and we're doing a party here for freelance month, and it's illegal not to give you paid time off in this state. So have fun with it, right? You can make it a joke, but be serious about making it a priority, whatever that thing is in your life. I'm going to jump here I'm trying to keep up with myself today. All right. When a messy process keeps creating the same problem, I can tear my hair out over this idea. The same to-do list brings the same results. I'm going to say it again. The same to-do list brings the same results. When you know that every time you do something this way, it comes around and you have to do the next step and it's messy. Taxes, for example, guys, we just got through this not too long ago, most of us, right? And I know every year I'm going to need to have my accounting ready. I'm going to need to know what I spent on certain things because I'm a business owner and I have deductions and I have to be accountable for certain things. If I buy high level equipment, there's some stuff, depreciation I got to watch for. I need to keep receipts in case I'm audited. So many little nuanced things. What if I didn't maintain a system all year? What if I wait to find every receipt in my house until April 1st? Like, they end up in the corner, they're in the desk, they're in the whatever. They might be in the bottom of that drawer there too. I remember grandma's junk drawers were kind of rough. I did some of her accounting at 16. But what if that was something you never solved for? Is your desk always messy? Why is it always messy? Why is it always the same mess every day? Is there not a process we can implement so it doesn't happen? Can you create a boundary for yourself somewhere? Think about those things that make life messy for you. What are they? When you cook, do you clean as you go? That is the first thing that comes to mind for me. If you don't clean as you go, you will always come back to a messy kitchen. If you know that you can't clean as you go, do you do some food prep in advance? Do you spend extra time after you're done eating to clean up? What is the process? What is it in business? There's always something that gets messy. I will be honest, what happens in a motorcycle shop, if we don't deal with the customer, right? If you guys came into the store, for example, and needed a jacket, we're going to try on some jackets. And we're probably going to try on a couple of different colors and styles because you want to see how you look in all of these options. We're going to check fitment. Every brand has a different cut. It's going to feel different on the person. And so we're going to do these things. And that's very normal in retail. However, if you don't hang the jacket up after the customer takes it off, if you don't zip it up immediately and put it back where it belongs, 10 jackets in, you have a pile, you have a mess, you have chaos. So then you're serving your customer. And I've seen this, right? Especially with newer employees. They'll do this and they'll try to just keep up with the customer, and the customer's setting the speed of the transaction, and they're going faster than the person can zip it up. And so then there's this huge mess in the corner that they were just standing in. They go to the register with the one jacket, and then they have another customer who needs their attention, and another and another. And then 20 minutes later, I look around and it looks like jackets have exploded all over the store, right? That's a bad process, because if we never stop the customer line to get to look around, the customers are looking at an exploded store while they're trying to shop. They're not going to find the item they came to look for. It's going to be disheveled. It's not going to look like something I'd want to buy. Who wants to buy the jacket that's sitting slung over the side of the rack instead of on the hanger, zipped up beautifully? One example. We also do tire rotation, changing. So if you have motorcycles, you can bring your rims in. We'll put a new tire on for you, take off the old tire, and take care of that. I have a very small space for this to happen in my office area. So I share that space with the tire machine. It's fine. However, if I don't have them take every tire out after they're done processing it and put it in the recycling space, there's no walk room. If you have 10 tires and they just want to take all 10 out later, the other employees are now being impeded. They can't do their thing because there's stuff in their way. What is that stuff in your business? In a motorcycle shop, it's pretty easy to see the piles add up, but what about those virtual emails? What about the task lists that are created? What about your CRM? How many to-do list items are added? How many people get to add tasks to your to-do list every day without permission in your organization? Is there any way to decline beyond having to go desk to desk to talk about it before you just say no in an email? How much wiggle room do you give your team to clean up the messy processes between tasks? Lots of loaded questions, guys. I know that the biggest thing that I see when I walk into a business is everybody's utilizing every moment of the day, and there is no time for assessment. There is no time to improve a process, take a deep breath, review your processes, and go, what's not working here? What is? How often do you give yourself time to dive into the data to see what is working and what isn't? Or do you wait until it's so broken that the building's on fire, the customer is about to quit? We had the employees too. They're all walking out the door if we don't fix this right now. And how much time do you have in your schedule to handle that moment if it arises? If this is the way you're running your business? What would happen if your team revolted today? If you don't give them time to fix the problems, they will compile. If you don't give them the tools and the skills and the ability to ask for help and resources, you're going to feel that later. But if you invest in your team, if you invest the time, if you go in right now into their task that you keep controlling and schedule for the yes for them and give them an hour, a half an hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes a day to do whatever they need to do uninterrupted. No to-do list items can be added during this time. No meetings can be added during this time. You might see a wave of productivity within your organization. The first week or two, they might just take that to breathe. They might just take it to let their brain stop running. They don't even know what to do with this time because they've never had it before. But then the next time, and the next time, they're going to really be able to start anchoring in and going, what do I need? And if they just need to sit for 20 minutes, let them. Sometimes I need to go and just let my brain have a break. Yesterday, I had wonderful customers coming in, people waiting to talk to me, people asking for me by name, phone calls coming in. Can I speak to Melissa? Love that. If you're in sales and you get asked for by name and people will wait for you, I had a customer waiting for me 2 days in a row. He left the first day because he was like, no, you're too busy today, but I'll come back tomorrow. He waited another half an hour for me to finish with the customer before I could serve him. That kind of customer-client relationship is fantastic, right? But if he walks in when I am not ready to mentally serve him, I'm in trouble. If I don't have time to decompress here and there, I'm in trouble. It just so happened that customer came back yesterday. He had an issue. We needed to figure it out. 10 minutes before he walked in the door, went, I got to go to the bathroom, guys. And I went in the bathroom and, bladder was full. I'm an older lady. It's okay. But I also just sat there for a minute. I was like, okay, just breathe. Just like nothing, no thoughts. Just wipe your mind for 60 seconds. And I stood in the mirror and I was washing my hands. And all I thought was, happy birthday to you. And I did it 3 times. I think you're supposed to do it too, but I did it 3 times just to give myself that time of, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just washing my hands, being in the moment, feeling myself massaging my hands together. And I was just there. As soon as I came to the bathroom, I needed a drink. I emptied the water out. I need to put more in. But to my left, I saw him standing there and I was like, oh, I'm not too busy right now. Let me make him the priority, right? Because he waited so many times. So I jump out. How can I help? What's going on? We take care of it. And he said, thank you for immediately stopping what you were doing to come see me. He is always willing to wait, but he also was super excited that when he didn't have to, I didn't make him. Does that make sense, guys? I was taking a messy situation with the customer, and in my very next opportunity to make it clean, clear, and concise, I did. It doesn't have to be 100% consistency. We can go back to, maybe we don't see it yet, but even those small, minor things over time will build up, right? He was happier this visit than the last because he got such good service this time, like right to the point. And I feel bad he waited, but at the same time, we were in our busiest sale week of the year. It was bigger than Christmas. We have blown all of our goals that we've had in top sales out of the water. We did it. But he had to pay the price that day of his time waiting for the service he wanted. Now, he could have opted for others, but guys, think about that kind of relationship building and think about what kind of behaviors it takes to get somebody to be that determined to utilize you or your service, to be that kind of leader in your building that they will wait for you. And what if your employees thought of you that way? What if they're like, hey, listen, I know she's not 100% today, but she's so the best boss in the world. Let me go ahead and just wait on her. What if they said, hey, man, every Tuesday she seems frazzled because we don't have this, and this done. What if we just do it Monday night? And I'll be honest with you, when we go back to the employees, quiet but prepared. Those quiet ones are always seeing that stuff. They're not busy talking. They're not busy being the one projecting information, so they can see what needs to be done. I love Ella. Ella worked with me as a receiving specialist, or a merchandiser, I think was the title back then. She did not want to be the loud one. She didn't want to be on the floor. She didn't want to be out there with the customers as much as she wanted to clean up the store, do the little things, take care of the stuff that breaks, make sure the things were full and shipped and packed and right. She did not have the confidence to be in front of the people, but she had the effort for everything else she was responsible for, right? This is the kind of stuff I want to talk about. Even when the numbers look average, but the behavior's improving. If you're giving your team that hour of time, that 15 minutes, that 30 minutes, figure it out, talk to your team, ask them what they need, ask them what would be most beneficial. If I'm always putting off my receipts and you say, hey, I want you to take this 10 minutes to do your receipts, but I know I can't even finish or begin the whole task. I'm going to need 30 minutes. I just know. I got to pull them all together. I got to write them down. I got to itemize them in the spreadsheet. I got to save it. I got to upload it to this, whatever. If I know that's my task list and I'm telling you I need 30, don't give me 15 because 15 doesn't get it done. Maybe I just need 15 once a week. Maybe I need 15 once a day. Maybe I need an hour on a Friday instead of doing it daily because I want to keep my other schedule going. But just once a week at the end of the week, I'd like to clean it up. So when I come in next week, it's fine. If you can assess the behaviors that aren't working, you can change the behaviors that aren't working, those better behaviors are going to improve everything else. Does that make sense? Are you guys still there? Okay. The next slide here. I got to say, I wanted to save this one for the last. You're not allowed to yell at me for saying this. I'm going to say that right now to my friends who always give me grief. But this is my favorite because I am nothing more on paper than a GED and a smile. And I say that with pride because the truth is, everything I've ever earned in my career has not come from a degree. Everything I've ever done successfully came from actions, personality, and my ability to smile through and know. And that's just my truth. I did not get to live the life of finishing high school because I dropped out of high school to take care of my great-grandfather when he got sick. My grandmother had 8 children. She worked her entire life. There was no retirement fund for her. So when she was older, she was still a caregiver for somebody older than herself. And then her dad needed it. And she couldn't be a full-time caregiver offsite at her job and at home with her father. So I offered to drop out of high school, help take care of him. I had always intended on going to the military. So I was like, they don't care if it's a GED or not. I'm going to have them pay for my college. It will be fine. It's fine. Let's do it. So we did. Unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know. It depends on who you're asking. I had a really good birthday party and my plans changed. Most would say it's unfortunate for an 18-year-old to get pregnant and remove their ability to join the military as they had planned. But it has brought me to where I am today. I have beautiful grandchildren, 4 of them. I have a career I'm very proud of. When I look back, I have started numerous startups with founders. I have helped so many founders create a vision for their brand, take it to market, build it out, let it continue to thrive and grow. And I've done that with nothing more than my skills that I've learned on the grill. I didn't take the normal path out of college. I didn't have recruiters coming to my college to ask me to apply. I didn't have anybody at my dad's work who I could ask to hire me or give me an internship. My mother had been a waitress and then was on disability and was even homeless and a drug addict when I was growing up. My resources were limited. We financially couldn't afford for me to go to college. I did have a Pell Grant, but being a single mom doing college was very hard, especially on a bus line. Not excuses, but these are definitely facets of what made me have to leave that to go to work at a payday loan company. And I loved the job. It was very much a banking style role. I did loans and I was doing check cashing and I was doing fraud assessment and alerts and all of that stuff. During that time, I felt great. I had given up government funding. I had stepped away from housing and food stamps and all of those systems. I actually broke up with them without even saying goodbye. I was kind of bad in that way, I'll be honest. I didn't even say goodbye to the apartment complex when I left. I was paying $12 a month at a 1,087 square foot apartment, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It was beautiful. And I knew I was never going to leave that setup if I didn't have to, if I didn't force myself to get uncomfortable, because the truth was, it was helping me to be a mom. It was helping me to make sure that I could do what I needed to do and go to school. But it wasn't, because I couldn't afford a car. I couldn't afford car insurance. I couldn't even afford utilities sometimes. And I had to have family come help and put prepaid utility stuff together. In Arizona, if you don't have good credit, you get a prepaid system where it's like a reverse ATM account. You will load the money on a card, put the card inside your utility box, and that will turn on your utilities for the set amount of usage that you have paid for. If you run a lot of lights, it will tell you how much you're spending per hour. And so there were times where we weren't using lights in the house and we would just light candles. I would let my kid have fun with flashlight at the end of the month because I didn't want him using our lights because our fridge would shut off if we ran out of the cash. I was not your typical person in an application setting. When I went for job interviews, I was limited in my resources and what I could wear. So a nice pair of jeans was a stretch to try to find, let alone anything more productive. I was very grateful for the services that I was offered through the state. They gave me a welfare to work program requirement. I went in, they taught me how to type. I could take an assessment and get a typing certificate. I was typing 35 words a minute, and I was so proud of that in 2000. I was able to do Word and Excel and get a basic skills assessment test. We do this now on LinkedIn, guys. And if you're not, you should, especially if you're trying to, grow from where you are today. These are the skills I used in 2000. It's the same skill set that we're doing now. It's the same plan and methodology. It's just a little bit different technology. I used the Welfare to Work program and they bought me 2 outfits. I got a voucher to go to Walmart and I was allowed to have 1 pair of shoes, 2 shirts, and 1 pair of pants or a skirt. I'll never forget it because that's all I wore to work for my first 2 weeks. 2 shirts, 1 pair of pants. I did what I had to do. It was not the usual path. Eventually, somebody gave me a gift card for Goodwill, and then I fell in love with the thought of using that space to bolster my wardrobe. To be honest, they're the nicest dresses you can find as grandmas, right? From the 50s. They were made differently back then. They've held up all of this time. I want those dresses, and that's the perfect place to find them. But imagine you're overlooking somebody because of their shoes. Imagine if my boss would have let me go because I only had 2 shirts to wear and 1 pair of slacks and 1 pair of shoes for the first 2 weeks I worked there. What if they're a little bit loud? What if they're not as refined? When I first, if you guys think I'm a little extra now, imagine me at 16 from the lifestyle I was coming from. It wasn't always 100% the best presentation of my behavior. I didn't always know how to be polite. My great-grandmother tried to instill quite a few skill sets in me, but I got to be honest, guys, I was rough around the edges. I still feel that way sometimes. There is some refinement I feel I lacked because I didn't take the traditional method. But I can also tell you that when I got laid off because my client of 8 years passed away unexpectedly to me, I was capable of making a phone call and having another business idea, not just started and implemented, but accepted and funded within 7 days. Fully funded by somebody else. I was going to run it based on my idea. That's a skill that people who have gone through school don't always possess, right? If you overlook me because I don't have my degree, you're overlooking the 30 years of sales experience I have. 30 years of on the ground, door to door, telemarketing, business to business, SaaS. I've done that too. That's all background screening is a platform that uses integrations to go to the actual source, right? And so I'm selling that as a service, the software that processes the data. You name it, I've sold the candy bars, I've sold motorcycle gear, I've sold background screens, staffing services, air conditioning and heating treatment services, you name it, magazines, I've done it all, guys. And the truth is, what made me good at it was I love people. I want to talk to you. I want to ask you questions. I want to learn about you. I want to know how this is going to help you so I can get excited with you that it will. If we can't figure out how it helps you, why would I wouldn't sell it to you. But because I'm that unusual person who actually wants to know what the customer wants before we sell, I want to get to know you a little bit to make sure what you think you want is what you actually need. And then I want to make sure that you get the best deal, product, pricing, structure that you can, because I believe that the best client is the one you keep long term. I don't want to make the most money off of you today that I can. I want to keep a contract with you for the next 10 years and do it consistently. And I've actually said that in business. I have told my clients, I'm not here to get rich today. I'm here to do a good job for you so we can maintain business together for a long time. And it works. But that bold statement, that ability to say the thing that needs to be said in spite of it being allowed or not allowed in a formal business setting, being able to walk up and introduce myself in the middle of somebody else's conversation and go, hey guys, what are you guys talking about? I'm Melissa Houston. I would love to be part of this chat. You guys look like you're really having a great debate. What's happening? And then I get to hear about whatever technology or business or whatever. That small thing set me up for success. Sam's small thing of being able to ask why. Not just to me of why do we sell it this way? Why do we say it this way? Why is this product better than that? What about this? The who, I, where, when, whys just fall out of her mouth. But then she can retain that knowledge. And then she is stronger because she is learning how to play chess, not checkers, right? She can assess that if the customer says this and doesn't like that, then I know which path to go. It is being able to not just read through a Choose Your Own Adventure, but to write the Choose Your Own Adventure book. Which one are you asking for? Which one are you hiring? Because I love those who can follow a path. You know, if the light is green, then go. If it's red, then stop. Cool. But what about the person who can make the light go yellow and decide whether or not to go in the moment? That sweet spot in the center of the Venn diagram. What if they understand this is my mission, this is the customer's mission, this is corporate's mission? How do I get that sweet spot for all of us to be happy? And do I know what that looks like if I don't have the ability to ask the who, what, where, when, whys? Are we giving it to them? Is there a playbook for them to know this is your gray space and this is what you can do in the gray space? Or are you teaching them how to create the gray or play in the gray or get to a spot where you can clearly get rid of the gray and push them into or pull them into a space or allow them to do the same, right? Maybe the client pulls you into what they need. What is that unusual path you're taking in your business and how? Who takes it the most on? Who is the one who pushes you? Who in your life says, hey, stop doing the same old, same old? Who is the first person to dare you to be different? And who was the first person you invested in? Because they were different. They brought something you didn't already have. Because a yes man in an organization is great. Sure, it's going to give you that confidence to make a decision. It's not going to give you the confidence that it's the right decision. When you can tell the difference, when you can look at it and truly assess, when you can see what's out there, that's more than meets the eye, right? You become unstoppable. If you can see that potential, the talent, the ability to have the potential just because they know how to ask the right questions. Sometimes you take an inquisitive human and put them in the right room, and all of a sudden they are your top performing salesperson. If you can watch your client, maybe those two humans that I walk up to and say, hey, I'm Melissa Houston, I'd like to join this conversation. Maybe that's a client and a service provider, and maybe they're fighting over the service agreement, and maybe me coming in just to diffuse the moment, have it. Or what if I could just add to the conversation, hey guys, I actually did this for a while. What if you did it this way? And it's that gray area neither knew to look for. Neither was willing to even offer until somebody else stepped in because they were in the moment. And bring this one back. You're going to write your story either way, guys. You will write your story either way. And so you have to decide. Are you going to keep it the same? Is this one of those things that we're going to be able to repeat after me and we're going to, like the Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to know what it is. Your story is very consistent and there's no deviation. It can work. Consistency pays. We talked about Richard Simmons. There is an image that immediately pops in my mind when I think of that brand. Some of you might be too young for that. Go ahead and Google it. But you can think of Mr. Beast. You know what to expect from his brand. He's consistent. He's writing his story. You can think about any of those influencers you know or the people in your life. What kind of story are they writing? How consistent do you really want to be in your habits? And why? Is it because it's going to improve your life? Is it because it's just easier this way? I read a quote earlier, and I don't even know who it was from, so I'm sorry, but it was something to the effect of, if you can finish all of your work by the end of the day, you're living a boring life. And I was like, oh man, that hits for me. Because if your to-do list is always done, you're productive and that's awesome. But what are you investing in that takes more than a day? What is that long-term mission you have that you're working on and tapping at? What is that tree you're chopping down one day at a time, a couple strokes every day, just same spot with the axe? If you can complete everything in one day, your goals aren't big enough, your dreams aren't big enough. I really want to encourage you to do my method for to-do list. To make sure I'm doing it different all the time, I have today's to-do list. It's the 24-hour window. Today starts right now. If I write the to-do list, I have until 7:30 tomorrow morning to execute it, Pacific time. I try to keep it to 3 bullet points. Those bullet points may create their own bullet points. If I have to register my car, I'm going to have to drive to the DMV or get online. I'm going to have to know my VIN number. I'm going to have some information. I'm going to have to pull out the card. Going to make sure all of that stuff happens, right? If that's the truth, each bullet point having 1 to 5 bullet points, it can become a very busy day automatically just based on the 3 things I want to get done. If my boss has access to my calendar, if my clients can interrupt me at any time, if the sky can fall in my organization at any moment, because that's the industry I'm in trouble, right? So you have to be careful to have a small today's to-do list. That said, all of those extra things you want to do, put them on this week, 7 running days. Start it whenever you want, but you have 7 days from the time you do it. You write the date at the top, the day at the top. It is Saturday, so I have till next Saturday to do whatever I write down today. And you fill it out. What do you want to do this week? Clean out the garage is one I use a lot as an example. Maybe you need to grocery shop. Maybe you need to, do laundry, wash the bedding. Write it all down. Maybe there's something in business. You need to gather your receipts, do your budgeting, put it all in. Write it down. And that list can get as long as you need it to, but be respectful of your time. Be honest with yourself. How much can you actually do in 7 days with the schedule you have, with the to-do list daily that you set yourself up with? And if you're always feeling like you're behind, you need to make sure that weekly list is not too big, because even though it's only 1 or 2 a day, those 1 or 2 tasks a day will also have a couple of bullet points behind them. And then you have the after list. Now, this is the list that I want you to fill up till your heart is content. Write down anything you ever dream of. Because the reality is, as excited as you are, and as much as you don't want to put it on the forever to-do list, it's 8 days away. Max. It's only 8 days away. And you have a busy week and you have a busy day. So 8 days away isn't a very long time to wait for this big thing that you love. Now, if you're really impatient, I have good news. I am also impatient. And so my list rotate. If I can get today's list done, if those 3 bullet points, like registering my car, maybe I've done this before. Maybe I log into the state that I live in and they have my information and all I got to do is yes, pay. Great. Maybe they've even stored my payment method. It took me 5 minutes. It's done. I'm done. I can move on to number 2. 2, same story. 3, same story. Well, now I'm sitting here with an hour that I had scheduled for the yes, and I only took 15 minutes. I can go into this week's to-do list and start knocking things out for 45 minutes. Isn't that kind of cool? And then tomorrow, when I look at my to-do list, I've already finished the days from yesterday. That was done. That was cool. I got a lot of this week's done. So what from this week is left that I can add to today's to-do list? And then the same thing goes with the after. Well, since I took care of half of this week's to-do list, let me reach into the after list and see what I can pull into the next 7 days. And every day you give yourself an ability to take that 8th day and bring it into tomorrow. It really depends on your bandwidth. And if you can't, there's no punishment, because we only start with what we know we can try to chew. If you leave something on the to-do list for today, that's cool. That's okay. We don't do that 2 days in a row. We assess why. And if it was just, wow, everybody, my aunt visited unexpectedly. My husband showed up and took me to lunch, and I didn't get to use my lunch to do the thing, but I wasn't giving up this. And give yourself the grace. Cool. But husband, I can't do lunch again tomorrow because I'm really going to fall behind. Let's do it next Tuesday. Right? And write it down. I want you guys to set yourself up for success, but you have to define that for yourself. You are the one who gets to decide what success looks like. You get to define it. You get to shift if it no longer feels like success to be where you are. Do you see the opportunity? Do you see what's right in front of you? Because it is more than meets the eye, typically. There's so much more right in front of you. There's always potential around. Can you see it? Can you look at your network and say, hey, I want to do something bigger. Who do I know that can help me get there? When's the last time you looked at yourself and said, hey, you're doing a great job, but I know you're meant for more? Every day I have that conversation with myself. I love what I do at the motorcycle shop, but I know that I am meant to help minds grow. I know that I'm meant to help business leaders see their own potential when they start to question it. When their passion and fun starts to dwindle because they have so many things they need to get done now because they were so successful in their business, and then all of a sudden they got so busy that they needed help with the business, and now they have to be a coach, now they have to lead, now they have to train. They didn't know that they were going to do this. They never had to do it before. Maybe they got lucky and they went from being really good at one thing, maybe sales, and then they had an idea and they're like, I'm going to sell my own product. I'm going to do that because I know how to do that. That's cool. But who holds them accountable when it becomes more than that for the job? Who's going to hold them accountable for getting those finances in order, or having the reviews with their team, or investing in their team? It's hard enough to invest in ourselves as leaders, as business owners, as humans. There's so many people out there who struggle with spending money on themselves, whether it's for shoes, clothes, a massage, self-care, whatever it is. There's such a struggle. But then imagine taking that human, having them be very good at something, starting their own business because they want to, treat themselves to that. And that's cool. And it's also a great punishment. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know it. It's the most rewarding punishment, but it is punishment. But imagine you take on that role, you find your own success, and then you need help. And so you hire, and now you have to coach, but you've never been coached. You were lucky enough to just run out of the gate. You figured out you were good at sales, maybe early on working for the family, but I don't know. But now you got to teach somebody else, and you don't know how to do it because you've never been taught. How do you define success then? Are you successful if your team's successful? Are you successful if your bills are still paid? Are you successful if they just want to keep coming back to work? And how do you maintain what you feel success is? Because these are things I think matters most in business. When I work for an organization like the one I work for now, I couldn't if they weren't looking at the big picture like that. They do coffee chats internally. When I heard they were doing coffee chats for years and I didn't know, and it's a women's group that does it, I was like, what? I know a woman who does coffee chats too. I want to do coffee chats with you guys. That's a leadership opportunity that I wasn't aware was even there, to be led by those in the industry already and then to lead others who might be newer than I am. I immediately shared that information on. Are you telling your team what they can access from you? Have you offered, like, hey guys, I don't know if you guys ever want to do some leadership development or, do some extra training, but let me know. Like, I'm happy to invest in you if, right? A lot of people don't even know that their business will give them reimbursements for certain things. Lots of organizations will pay you to go back to school as long as the degree is business relevant and as long as you maintain a certain GPA. That's cool to know. I think you have to ask for what you need. And that's something else, guys. You have to define your own success. If you're not the business owner, if you're one of those who is working for a business owner and you're like, hey, my guy doesn't, my boss, my lady, whoever's in charge of me, they just don't see it. They don't invest in us. They don't care. I would encourage you to explain why they don't care before you really anchor into that belief system, because maybe they do, but they don't know you care about it. Maybe they're so focused on the things you've already shown them you care about that they're not picking up the other things. Are you communicating? Are you defining your success by your terms, by having the conversations that will help you be successful? When I go to my boss and say, hey, we're killing it up here. I love what I'm doing. However, this is what I need to be successful. He gets to make a choice whether or not he's going to support that concept. If he doesn't, long-term, that's going to have an effect on us. If he does, long-term, that's going to have an effect on us. And it's up to us to define, do I take a no? How do we take a no? How do we make it a yes? Should we make it a yes? If he can say no, can he tell me why he's saying no? And explain it to me the same way I want you guys to not just teach them to take a task, but explain why the task matters. Explain what the task actually brings, like what result we're getting from it. If you tell me that starting a charcoal grill is going to cook a hot dog, but then I don't have charcoal, at least I understand a grill will cook a hot dog and I can use the gas if it's available, right? If you tell me charcoal, 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 and I never hear the word grill, I'm out of luck without charcoal. Does that make sense? You have to be careful with how you communicate these things. But guys, I really enjoyed being back today. I can't believe it's been an hour and 43 minutes. So I'm going to tell you, I appreciate you being here. Again, if we are just meeting, please go to Document Then Act on all the platforms. Go find me there. You will find me if you use it. But YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Substack is where I reside. I am most active on LinkedIn. I do most of my coaching and content on LinkedIn. I also have a TikTok. I forget that thing, the TikTok. So go follow me on those places. Go to my profile, ring the bell. You want to make sure you're not missing the content. You might be following, but you might not be getting everything. And so go make sure you're doing that. And then the other thing I would just ask you to do is really take time for yourself. Go into your calendar, schedule for the yes. Take that first block of available time and give yourself the grace to use that space however you need to. Make that a priority. Make it a habit. Make it a reoccurring theme. Start with one day of the week if you need to. Make it the most hectic day, the one that you're always just so frazzled and you wish you had 2 minutes to breathe. Give yourself that space before you need it. Make sure it's blocked off and protected. When I was doing outbound marketing for the staffing firm, 2 hours a day, I was doing business to business, outbound lead generation and calling, right? And from 8 to 10, nobody could call me, email me, bother me. If anybody called for me, I was in a meeting. No, even if it was the returning client that I had just called to try to sell, they could not reach me right away. If you didn't answer, you don't get me until 10. But at 10 o'clock, I give them a call back. They are a hot, fresh lead, and I still finished my other duties. I didn't get redirected before I had planted all the seeds I needed to, and then I could harvest later. Make yourself that accountable. Make yourself that safe from distraction that you can do exactly what you mean to do when you mean to do it. This is the only way that I know how to be successful, but that's how a GED and a smile jumps over candidates with a degree. Doesn't walk through the front door, but goes through the back door with the owner, who then introduces me to HR and says, she's your new boss. She's going to assess how you do your job, and you listen to her. There's a huge power shift in that dynamic, and I don't do it for the power, but I empower myself to not get a no from the people who can't see talent that isn't certified in a document from somebody else already doing the assessment. If you want to learn how to move like that, guys, I'm here. That's what my gift is. But I'm also beyond the business consultant. I am a career coach. I'm a mindset coach. I help with leadership development, alignment in the business, the people working within the business. I want to know what they want to be in 5 years so I can help them be their best self here until they leave and go do the next thing. If you can empower them for the next 5 years, support them in their dream while building your dream, while having your business execute to its fullest potential, they become the biggest cheerleaders for you later in life. When I send out the humans I have trained from this motorcycle shop, Sam went and she was a #1 top performer for years in membership sales. She kept performing. She got to go, all expenses paid, to Texas, go to the COTA races, go sit inside the tent of, I think it was Ducati, and actually get to feel the vibration of the bikes, all because she did a good job at her job. She went off to a big store. She's doing great things. She's making incredible money at her age, things that engineers will be making after their degree. She's making in her early 20s with no degree. She had started college also. Ella's doing comparable things in the merchandising world. She's in a top performing store. She gets to be flown to different stores to train them as they open, or to reinforce those good behaviors because they're hurting so much. She's also in her early 20s. Brian is my next assistant manager. He's working for me now. He got to go down to Daytona, and he was a top performer every day in sales for memberships, selling half in one of the days. He sold half of what the entire event did. Why? Because I taught them to love what they do, learn what they want to learn here, be the best at that, and then just do the supporting stuff they need to. And if they really hate it, I'll do it. I don't mind cleaning a bathroom if it keeps them happy and fun to sell the memberships, if it keeps them engaged in the motorcycle conversations, if it keeps them going, right? That's the kind of alignment I am teaching and coaching within a business. It can happen in your life too. This is something you guys got to harness, but I use Venn diagrams. I use elementary education concepts. If you need help with this, if your business needs help with it, reach out. I don't love the pitch zone, and that's kind of where we are, guys, but truth is I don't talk about my services enough, and I want to make sure you're learning. So if you want to do LinkedIn, you can turn your profile, whether it's individual or business, into a powerhouse. It will explain everything you are, everything you want to be, everything you want to accomplish, and it will help inbound leads get generated. It will help with connections to be made quicker, with more confidence. It will make people want to understand what you do, be able to understand what you do in a quick way. And then it's going to actually let you set the tone of who you are as a human by the content you create. And so make sure that if you haven't done this yet, sign up for an individual assessment on your profile. If you guys want to sign up your team, I can either do a virtual workshop or I can come in. We can talk about pricing to fly me in, but virtual works. We can do this. And so you can set up yourself for success that way. The other thing I would say, if you're already there, but you just need to sell your product, maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a consultant, maybe you have something you're bringing out and you just can't get it to land yet, call me, DM me. We'll do some assessment on your profile. I will tell you if I can even understand what you're trying to do before you tell me, really. I want you to say, hey, I'm trying to sell a product. I would love your help. And I will tell you nothing but what I get firsthand. I want to be able to look at your profile and say, this is what I receive from you. This is what I think you're doing. Is this what you're doing? And if the answer is no, we have work to do. If the answer is yes, that's a great first step. Then we go into creating your packaging, your branding, your marketing. Maybe you need help with outbound reach and you just need to know what to say and how to say it and who to say it to. We could do that too. You have to decide when to get started. I can help you with a lot of the little things to get going. Those little things create really big things. But the biggest thing I want to share with you guys is, if I could give you any piece of advice to leave with today, if I could tell you, even without a coach, even without others around to hold you accountable, if you use this methodology to run your life, I know you'll find more success. I know it. There is so much data behind the power of documentation and writing things down and holding yourself accountable. But then the second part of it is doing the action, being able to get to work on the thing you said you wanted to do without somebody else holding you to it. If you can harness that, if you can practice that, you're going to go so far. If you need help to get started, I don't want you to be upset about that. I don't want you to feel like, oh man, why do I need somebody to tell me what to do? Well, let me explain. The education system in the United States was created to teach people how to read, write, and do math at the 8th grade level, because that's what manufacturing companies thought was the minimum needed to make you a productive citizen and employee. What it really does, though, and if you look at it, is it teaches you to look to somebody for a syllabus. It teaches you to look to somebody for assessment, and it teaches you to look at somebody for the gold star or the good job or the attaboy, insert here, right? Whatever it is. And that's fine, and it's well, and it's cool, and it works for the purpose it was intended. But if you ever want to be a solopreneur, if you ever have a dream to not do it the same way it's always been done, and this just doesn't feel right, and you just don't fit in, and it's not going to be your life stream to just keep doing it that way, I'm your person. You need to reach out to me. And the reason is I'm going to teach you how to create your own syllabus. I'm going to teach you how to think about your life in a way that it does create a to-do list automatically without help. The greatest coaches teach you to live without them at some point. That's what I want to be. I want to be your starting point. I want to teach you to draw circles in really fun colors. I want to teach you to wake up with a mindset of, I'm going to get this done before X time, and then teach you how to make sure you get it done. Call you if you need it. Be the coach you need. Athletes who are on the field don't get to the Pro Bowl, the Super Bowl, to the Olympic Games without somebody holding them accountable. And they are great at what they do. Olympic athletes were great at what they did before they went to the Olympics. But they needed somebody to hold them accountable. Even at that level, humans need that partnership, that accountability, that feedback, until they learn to give it to themselves. And then they take a new skill set on that they're going to need coaching on, because we are not always right. We're not always ready, but we always need to be able to get ready. And I think if you have a pen and paper, you're always good. If you have your phone notes app, Felipe will tell you that's all he needs in life. He can go from there. I want you to make sure that you're documenting and then acting. I want to make sure that you also come tomorrow to the show, because Felipe and I will be live on Careers, Chaos, and Coaching, and we'll be covering some fun stuff about networking in person and online and the variables, guys. But I just want to thank everybody who came today. Thanks so much, Erin. It felt like a great show. It really did. And Jay, thank you so much for coming. And I appreciate that. Like I said, sales 30 years. I hope it comes out as just wanting to help and really just trying to give value, because if you can learn this, guys, if you can do this for yourself, the value you will present in your life will be exponential. It's just going to keep growing. It is like a weed. It's the thing you can't get rid of. Once you get into that momentum and that train starts to pull out of the station, and you learn how to document then act, and you learn how to find the sweet spot for everybody, and you learn how to make it happen, you will keep doing so. It's just like riding a bike. Once you figured out how to ride a bike, you can jump on any bike. if you learn how to hold yourself accountable, to start a brand, to build a brand, to reach out, to network, to grow, to sell, to engage, whatever the goal is, to optimize, you can then take that same premise and just keep applying it. If I teach you how to take 2 circles and sort data, you will be at a red light, being able to do it mentally without a pen and paper. When you get home, I still want you to write down what you figured out, but you will empower yourself to do it faster, quicker, and without help, without a pen, without a calculator. I want you guys to go be great. I want you to have fun. I want you to dance the day away. And so we're going to do my song one more time, but come back next week. We are here and we're back. Take care.
Sunlight creeps through my window pane. Dreams of stars, now a faint refrain. Coffee brews and thoughts collide in this early morning ride. Wake up world, let's start the day. Insight flows in a bright array. Questions dance like morning dew. In this space, it's me and you. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup is a whisper. Conversations open door. Spilling thoughts forevermore. Ideas bubble crisp and bright. Words take flight in morning light. Consult the heart, make it sing. New perspectives on each wing. Another cup of cheer. Every thought